Good morning. I'm Sharon Goldsmith, Vice Dean for Entrepreneurship and Business Development at Hofstra University, and I'd like to welcome all the attendees today, Dr. Shu Yang's class, Dr. Vickery Dearman's entrepreneurship class, as well as our panelists and moderator, Dean of the Frank G. Zarb School of Business, Dr. Janet Lenaghan. Women in Entrepreneurship Week was created in 2014 by the Feliciano Center for Entrepreneurship at Montclair University in New Jersey. Over 240 universities, colleges, and organizations host yearly events on their campuses. Hofstra University Center for Entrepreneurship hosts a yearly panel discussion introducing students and our community to the incredible work of female entrepreneurs. And while we were meeting virtually today, this year is no different. Hofstra University Center for Entrepreneurship has a strong track record of helping women in entrepreneurship. During the 2019-20 academic year, women came in first place in several of our competitions, taking home a collective $70,000 in prize money. Women represent more than half of the competitors in our Healthcare Challenge, Digital Remedy Venture Challenge, and Entrepreneurial Assistance Center competitions. Registration is now open for our Hofstra Digital Remedy Venture Challenge at hofstra.edu/entrepreneurship, and we hope to see representation from all our students. Now I'll turn it over to the Center's Executive Dean, Stacy Sykes, to introduce our moderator.
Good morning, everyone. I just also want to note we had a Lion's Den pitch competition for students this Tuesday, and women swept first, second, and 2 women teams tied for third. And it's the second year in a row that women swept this competition. So we are so excited to continue supporting women entrepreneurs at the Center for Entrepreneurship. And we're really grateful for the collaboration with the Frank G. Zarb School of Business. We do a lot of work together, and we introduce speakers to classes and also different types of consulting experience for students who are working with business owners. And we look forward to that continued collaboration and complementing the world-class program at the Frank G. Zarb School of Business. And leading that is Dr. Janet Lenaghan, Dean of the Frank G. Zarb School of Business. She is the first woman to lead the school in its 54-year history. She's a 2-time recipient of Hofstra's Teacher of the Year Award and has taught a variety of courses in the undergraduate, graduate, online, and executive programs. Her research interests focus on human resource management, specifically work, family conflict, and employee benefits. Her work is published in a wide variety of academic journals, and she routinely provides commentary for national media outlets on current issues facing organizations. She's an alumna of the Frank G. Zarb School of Business and holds a doctorate from Pace University and a BBA from Adelphi. She's a member of various academic and professional societies, including the Academy of Management, the Society of Human Resource Management, and she serves on the board of EFMD Global and the Long Island Software Technology Network. We are so excited to partner with Dean Lenaghan on this event for the 4th year in a row, and I'd like to hand the program over to her.
Thank you, Stacy, and I hope you know how much we appreciate your partnership. It's wonderful that you're right in our building, and I know all of us wish, I was saying earlier, that we were all on campus in the beautiful Center for Entrepreneurship, but we have gotten very accustomed to having great conversations virtually, so I have no doubt that today will continue the great tradition that this event has provided for our students. So I'm looking forward to it. You know, entrepreneurs truly change the way we live and work. Their innovations not only improve our quality of life, but they create jobs and boost our economy. According to the Small Business Administration, the 31.7 million small businesses in America account for 54% of all US sales, provide nearly 60% of all jobs, and 65% of all new net jobs since 2000. But why is it important for Hofstra to join other universities and nonprofits around the world to participate in the Women in Entrepreneurship Week, focusing specifically on women-owned businesses? Because women-owned businesses continue to fuel the economy and now represent 42% of all businesses, nearly 13 million. They employ 9.4 million workers and generate over $1.9 trillion. In fact, the amount of businesses, employees, and revenue from women-owned businesses increased at a greater rate than all businesses this past year. And according to the annual State of Women-Owned Businesses report commissioned by American Express, in 2019, women started an average of over 1,800 new businesses per day in the US. The progress for women of color has been particularly swift. While the number of women-owned businesses grew 58% from 2007, firms owned by women of color grew at nearly 3 times that rate. As of 2019, women of color account for 50% of all women-owned businesses. An estimated 6.4 million women of color-owned businesses employ nearly 2.4 million people and generate over $400 billion in revenue. So truly, in every category, women of color are leading the women-owned business charge. And as work trends shift towards side hustles in the gig economy, so does female entrepreneurship. Over the last 5 years, growth in the number of women sidepreneurs has grown at a rate that is nearly twice as fast as the overall growth in female entrepreneurship. 39% compared to 21% respectively. Minority women are responsible for a large portion of that growth. From 2014 to 2019, we see sidepreneurship among minority-owned women businesses growing at a rate 2 times higher than all businesses. But despite the growth, women-owned businesses still face a number of challenges. We all know about the gender pay gap, but there's also a gender investment gap. According to research conducted by the Boston Consulting Group, when women business owners pitch their ideas to investors for early stage capital, they receive significantly less than men, a disparity that averages more than $1 million. Yet businesses founded by women ultimately deliver higher revenue, more than twice per dollar invested than those founded by men, making women-owned businesses much better investment for financial backers. And current data suggests that the pandemic is hitting women-owned businesses harder than their male counterparts. So while there's no doubt that there are opportunities, we need to ensure that there is a robust ecosystem to support women growing and growing businesses. Despite the current challenges stemming from the pandemic, research suggests that many new innovations are generated during an economic downturn. In a study done by Kauffman Foundation of nearly 8,500 US companies, it found that the inclination to engage in an IPO, an initial public offering, was not at all impacted by economic contractions. And in fact, many of the household names that you know, Microsoft, Apple, even Krispy Kreme, came from prior recessions. So entrepreneurs see a need, and oftentimes they see that need before the consumer and find a way to fill it. They face the challenges head on, as did the members of our esteemed panel this morning. We truly have an outstanding group of women here with us today. Listen carefully and ask questions. They have sat where you are sitting now and have experienced the pitfalls and glory of working in the entrepreneurial space. Learn from them and absorb all the great advice they're about to share. So we're going to start this morning by asking each of the panelists just to briefly introduce themselves and tell us about the inspiration for your business idea. And so Barbara, why don't we start with you?
Thank you, Janet. And I have to say, it's just so exciting to see how well women did in these contests. And it's an absolute joy to be here with you today. If any of you have heard me speak before, you know that I always start with talking about what my mission is. And I absolutely would hope that the number one thing that you take away today is that if you want to be an entrepreneur, it starts with an obsession of solving a problem it starts with an obsession of having a purpose. So I have two missions. I wake up every morning and ask myself two questions. The first question I ask myself is, what can I do today to help women get their fair share of the political and economic pie? And the second question I ask myself is, what can I do today to help someone start a company, to innovate, solve a problem, create new jobs and wealth? So it's absolutely a joy to be talking about with you today. I think also, as you will see, is I am definitely the oldest person on the planet. So to quickly, very quickly, and I didn't mean planet, I actually meant on a panel. That was an interest. I'm feeling that today. Okay. Yeah, it's a little rainy out. Anyway, so just to quickly put my life very quickly in an historical context, I always like to remind women that women born in the United States since World War II are literally the first women in the entire history of mankind to have the legal rights, the educational rights, the financial rights to create your own purpose and your own wealth. My journey on helping women get their fair share started very quickly in second grade. I was the tallest person in the class. It came to Friday and time to carry the American flag, and I was told that girls could not carry the American flag. So my very first action was a sit-down strike in second grade until we could carry the American flag, and it's been that mission since. My first career graduating from college in 1969, that was the first year that the New York Times stopped advertising help wanted men, help wanted women. And so when I went on to Wall Street in 1970, literally every job I had for the next 12 years, I was the first woman to have it. I ended up being on the board of Dean Witter, but I was denied going on the executive committee. And when the Wall Street Journal came and asked me about what happened, I was part of a feature that was that coined the term the glass ceiling. So I've been studying all these issues forever. From there, I went to become a serial entrepreneur. The two companies that I'm best known for is FPG, which was a stock photography company. Extremely proud that in 1990, only white people were in commercial photography, and we revolutionized photography by demanding that people of all colors, all backgrounds, all ages were used in commercial photography, and won all sorts of awards in the Clinton White House for that. My other company was Acoustiguide, that if you ever took an audio tour in a museum and historic site, that was my company. And since selling that company in 2005, I've spent the last 12 years as entrepreneur in residence at Columbia University and now at Hofstra. And so I teach, write, talk about helping women get their fair share and how to create new companies. That should sum me up for starters, Janet.
Thanks, Barbara. That's terrific. Your background is just truly amazing. Let's go to Angela. Angela, I can't hear you. I don't know if others can.
No, we can't.
No, still not.
We can't hear you, Angela. Maybe we should we go to someone else?
Yep, unless she, is there a quick fix, Angela? All right, so we're gonna try let's go to Elnez and then we'll come back, all right?
Yeah, sure. So basically you can see from my accent that I'm an immigrant. I immigrated to US from Iran on 2016. And I started my education as a doctorate student at Hofstra University Education Department. And hopefully I will graduate in the next 5 or 6 months. So I founded Medox company on my first year of doctorate program to help patients to make educated decisions when going through surgery, and at the same time to help hospitals to save costs and generate more revenue. Hofstra Entrepreneurship Center and win 2 of the healthcare entrepreneurship prizes in their competitions. We started with baby steps on the first days of Medox company. And now I'm very proud to say Medox is implemented in more than 8 hospitals across the nation. And we have raised more than $500,000 in venture capital. So as an immigrant woman in entrepreneurship space, I have had many ups and downs in this journey, especially when it comes to fundraising. That was for now some of my background, and I will share more on this journey as we go through the session.
Terrific. Thank you so much. And again, I know our students are going to learn a lot from hearing about your journey and experiences. Thanks for being on the panel this morning. All right. Angela, are you ready? I know you chatted, you thought you were, but now I don't see you. All right. So let's go to Lynn next, and then hopefully we can come back to Angela. Good morning.
Can you hear me okay?
Oh, there we go. Angela, go ahead.
I had to hook in another line. Give me 1 second. And I'm so sorry, everyone, for that delay. Thank you for. Thank you, Janet. Thank you, Hofstra University, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here once again as part of the Women in Entrepreneurship panel. I love hearing the stories thus far from Barbara. And thank you so much for sharing. Even though you're older, you're wiser, and you have so much wisdom to give. So thank you so much for that. So I wanted to share a little information about myself. I am an ex-corporate professional. I used to work in the beauty and investment banking fields. Before I made the shift into becoming a beauty entrepreneur, I actually was a director working for an investment banking firm in the area of anti-money laundering and know your customer. My background is very diverse. And as a young, I would say college student, I started off as an intrapreneur. I was always thinking of innovative ideas on the job. And through that thought process, I was always promoted very quickly within my positions. So I enjoyed always working as part of a team, being a visionary, and also just wanting to see the success of any given firm that I've been a part of. And I've been very, very blessed to have very strong women supporters, mentors, and advisors through my entire career. And I can only attribute my success to that experience. Shortly after and during my career, I had some family members that passed away due to cancer. And I found myself not only being a corporate professional, but also utilizing my beauty skills to help camouflage their appearances during that time, which led to the creation of Cosbo Inc. as you see it today. And I'm very, very proud to have made that shift and pivot into the field of entrepreneurship now, being not only a successful businesswoman, but being a proud working mother. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Angela. And again, looking so forward to hearing more about how you made that transition. And I'm so thrilled that you mentioned intrapreneur, because we talk to the students a lot about that. You know, every Zarb student has to take Entrepreneurship 115, Introduction to Entrepreneurship. And we talk a lot about, you may not necessarily be an entrepreneur, but you always need to be an intrapreneur, right? Always need to be creative. So thanks for that. And Lynn, can you tell us a little bit about your background?
Sure. I'm so honored to be accompanied by such amazing women on this panel. I'll go off of Barbara's point. I think I'm the youngest person on the panel today. And I think there's a lot of imposter syndrome that kind of drives me to, creating the business that I have today, which is the 2.0 Collective. We are the first ever career advancement membership, pretty much everything that I wish I had as I was building my career. And Stacey and Sharon know very well, I've been very active in creating opportunities for others, especially with my work in the Center for Entrepreneurship, and now being an ecosystem builder in Charlotte, North Carolina, where I currently sit as the director of Charlotte Innovation Week, a history in the making, state of innovation celebration, and Seat the South, which is an angel investor symposium. So, I think my experience with building my company to provide a modern take on career support, as well as my background in computer science and creating all of these opportunities, has really allowed me to kind of combat that imposter syndrome and really take advantage of everything that I have learned from Hofstra University.
That's terrific. Thanks, Lynn. And I'm going to start. I have a question about the imposter syndrome, then I will start with you. But before we get there, I feel like we should start in terms of COVID, right? And how it has impacted all of your businesses. We're hearing a lot of, small businesses have been really negatively affected, many of them having to close. So if we can just talk about really how has the pandemic impacted you, your business, but also your personal development? What may be some of the disadvantages that women might be dealing with more so than men during this difficult time in terms of being a small business owner? Are there any lessons learned since this happened, in March till now that you think might actually help propel your business going forward, having to deal with this, just incredible disruptor to our market? Angela, why don't we start with you?
Yes, since I'm in the beauty industry, more specifically, I'm in the tattoo industry. We were probably the last industry that anyone wanted to open. And I know that even today, I have a lot of colleagues throughout the United States that have been impacted dramatically, some of them closing their doors to their business. During COVID, it was a lot for me. I'm not going to even lie to you. I am a working mom. I have 2 small children that I had to homeschool. And we made the decision that we wanted to put our family first, which was very important. And prior to COVID, I did close my doors because I do know the impact of viruses, and knowing that we were dealing with such a pandemic where no one was safe, it was important for me to be able to make sure that my family was safe first. In the interim, I will say that I found that it was the best lesson to have ever gone through. When I was a part of the EAC program, we talked about risk management. We talked about what would happen or what would you do if something bad were to happen. And I think at that time, a lot of the businesses were thinking about, well, what if the building caught on fire, right? That was the worst thing. I would find another location, right? Nobody ever thought about something as impactful as the pandemic to your business. And for me, I was grateful because I was thinking about, what would happen if something were to impact my business in such a severe way. So going back to what I said first was, 1, I'm a working mother, and 2, my priority was to my family first and to keep them and myself safe. So that was my priority at the time. I will say that when COVID came, it definitely allowed me to start focusing on the parts of my business that I needed to strengthen, such as my systems and my processes. I knew that anything that I was doing that was paperwork or document related, I had to shift to utilizing more technology. So I took the opportunity to be able to transfer what I was doing, from a paperwork standpoint to electronic way of communicating. And I stayed very much in contact with my clients, not only just sharing updates with them, but also making sure they were okay. Because although I provide a sensitive type of service, such as medical tattooing, to be clear for everyone that does not really understand medical tattooing, it's not just a form of body art, but it's a way of camouflaging naturally certain scars that women have, whether it comes from post-surgery or breast cancer. So for me, it was shifting that mindset to not only just being an artist, but actually showing my clients that I cared. So as far as the impact to COVID, I think that it allowed me to be in touch with my clients on a more personal level, but also to develop myself as well.
Angela, I think that's so important. I hear that a lot from CEOs as well, talking about that one of the things that really resulted of the pandemic is people are actually feeling closer to one another and building much more of a sense of community because there was a genuine concern for each other. So I appreciate that. Did anyone else on the panel want to share kind of about your experiences with the pandemic? How has it impacted your business? Elnaz, I don't know if you might have.
Yeah, sure. Definitely. COVID-19 has impacted our company. So as a startup in the healthcare space that is selling to the hospitals, many of our clients had to stop their elective surgeries. And that caused that the investors were, and even now are, hesitant to invest. And everyone is waiting to see how this pandemic will have effect on how the hospitals are operating, especially in the space of surgeries. So we were dealing with a lot of changes in the hospital settings and dealing with the new risks. But we decided that to have a small pivot and launch a new feature so that we can survive during this pandemic. So we launched a feature, we worked day and night, and we launched within a month a new feature to screen patients for the COVID-19. And I would say that, it is very unfortunate that the startups are going through this, situation of lack of funding, of to see that the businesses are working differently. But at the end, we need to survive and we need to go forward. So I think as a women entrepreneur, I have been always dealing with, funding and raising capital. And this pandemic has made it more difficult because there is less credit when a woman is pitching the idea than a man is pitching it. But, at the end, it's just, to work hard and make it happen, and to see that in even the hard situations, how we can, switch the process and make it to the advantage of us as a company. So if the industry is changing the way they're operating, we decided to, align with the way that our customers are going through.
That is such great advice, in terms of agility, right? We talk to the students a lot about being able to pivot, right? And being able to adapt to the environment in which you find yourself. So great advice for all the students. Barbara, I didn't know if you wanted to add something.
Yes, actually, this has been a very interesting time for me with my mission. And in actual fact, it's been very fulfilling because almost every week I've been asked to do a Zoom call at least 3 or 4 times to business owners on what's happening. I ran companies through 9/11 and the 2008 meltdown. And one of the things that I'm talking about now is this is not crisis management. This is not a crisis situation. This is chaos. And as you said in your opening comments, chaos opens extraordinary opportunity. Absolutely no one has any idea how this is going to end up, and every aspect of our lives have been disrupted. So the opportunities are extraordinary. But when it comes to women, I think the item that is on my radar very much is the McKinsey and Lean In report, which came out last week, that talked about the fact that maybe 20 to 25% of women at all levels in corporate America are thinking about leaving their jobs over the next year or so. And that is because women typically have at least 3 hours extra work a day, and there just is not enough time to do that. So that's very concerning. However, there also is a new report out that says that there's about 20 to 25% men who are also thinking of leaving corporate life. So I think, again, building on some of the themes of what we've been talking about, of this being a time to look at your mission and values, I think all of us are asking ourselves why we're on the planet. On the other hand, when I work very closely with peer women's groups, and I run actually 5 different groups, and looking at those women entrepreneurs, only about, I would say, 1 to 5 out of 60 of those women are really questioning whether or not they're going to survive. In my experience, the women who totally understood what their mission was, what their purpose is, really did these pivots, as we've heard from Elnis, and are surviving. And I also would like to highlight that at least 30 to 40% of the women-owned businesses that I work with actually are doing very well. By going virtual, their costs have gone down. There are many opportunities in food, shipping, selling online, that again, with that pivoting entrepreneur innovative mindset, this really has also given amazing opportunity.
Great, thanks, Barbara. Lynn, I didn't know if you wanted to weigh in.
Yeah, I mean, Barbara, just everything that you just said, being able to use this opportunity to really lean in, figure out your mission and purpose, that's what we've seen so much with our members. COVID has actually pushed us to launch faster and further to support all of the professionals that are coming in. And I want to highlight one thing that did happen during COVID, which was summer with
No, I bought them teeth. No, they weren't. They're not as
matter.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Lynn, hold on a minute. Irvin, you might want to mute your phone. We're hearing you. Thank you. Sorry, Lynn.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Yeah, we had to launch faster in order to really support the professionals that were feeling not supported by their companies at all, right? And it really allowed them to ask the question right now, how is my company telling me that I'm going to be furloughed? How are they communicating to me? And how are they responding to Black Lives Matter, right? And we have found that a lot of underrepresented professionals, women, BIPOC, and the intersectionality that creates our identities as professionals, that's really the driving factor, I think, of how we're going to approach work from now on after the pandemic. So that's what we're working on right now, to really understand from the ground level, what do professionals need and how do we best support that, right? And it really comes from having someone to talk to. And I think, being a mom, right? And being a founder at the same time, there's no way that you can really give everything your all every single day. So how do you choose to do that each day?
Terrific. Thanks, Lynn. So we're getting a lot of questions from students. So I'm going to take a pause from my questions and go right to the students. So we have a question from Patrick Wall. What challenges, disadvantages do women entrepreneurs face on a daily basis which their male counterparts may not necessarily be subject to? And then further, what can males do in the workplace to make the environment more inclusive for women? What might they be doing subconsciously that they don't even realize they're doing, and how can they fix it? I don't know who wants to try to tackle that one first. A great question. Lynn, maybe we'll start with you.
At it.
Angela, great. Jump
on. So I've worked for, as I was mentioning before, I worked for investment banking firms, and I find that as a woman, it was really, I had a lot of flexibility in my position when I wasn't married and I didn't have any children. And so with that being said, I can work as long as anyone else, and I could be as dedicated, or I was perceived as being as dedicated and committed as anyone else. When I did get married and I did start to have children, and as we know, when you're balancing work and personal life, it can become very challenging. And from a woman's perspective, you would think we were more supportive and empathetic and be able to work with the flexibility and challenges that come with being a working mother. I found that at times, some of my male counterparts didn't quite understand. I'll give you an example. I was managing a pretty large team, and I had a challenge with my child, and I had to get home very, very soon. My team, I had trained each one of my team members to be just as strong as myself, let's put it like that. They could run a meeting, they could handle a call, they could handle my job if they needed to, right? And they were very supportive and very protective over me. And I was leaving at 5 o'clock so that I can get back to Long Island because I was working in the city. One of my male counterparts came in and was asking for where I was at, and was making a lot of condescending comments around my team. And thankfully, I had a very strong team that had my back, and they knew exactly what they needed to do and put him in his place very quickly. And what I mean by that is letting him know that she is a mom, she needs to get home, we're here to help, and how can we help you? So what I would say is, if you've never walked a mile in a woman's shoes or understood how it is to be a working mother, to be empathetic and to listen and understand that life happens. And if you need to reach someone, you can pick up the phone or do anything that you need to do. But for the most part, I will say, and I don't want to be vague about my response, I really want to be clear. Women and men, although we're different in many ways, we're the same in a lot of ways. And we're very much capable. And I think that's why women make very strong operations managers. That's just me being subjective. But I feel that as a male counterpart in the workplace, being supportive, being empathetic, and understanding that position that that person is in, all helps. It doesn't matter what sex you are. You could definitely be of a help and assistance to that individual.
Angela, so many great pearls of wisdom that just, hit the right tone that we tell our students all the time, from, hiring great people, right? Because it makes you look better, not to be worried about hiring people that are better than you. That makes you better as a boss. And obviously, understanding and sympathy and empathy and emotional intelligence in the workplace, so important. Did anyone else want to jump in on that question? I think, Lynn, you might have had some thoughts on that.
Yeah. So I'll start with mansplaining, which is a popular topic. And if you don't know what mansplaining is, it's over-explaining from a man, right? And you may, men may do that because they feel that you may not understand a certain concept, or they're trying to help you, but it really comes from a condescending way to try to say you're not as smart as me, right? Like, I can explain this very easy concept to you. And I'll say first, the way that men can stop doing that, an action item for you is to stop yourself and say, is this something that she already knows? And if you don't know that, then you can ask, hey, do you need help on this? Should I take the time to stop and explain this to you? I'm happy to, right? And as a woman, what you can do if you notice someone, this is one of the most popular topics that we get in our calls, is, you have to understand, get on the same page and say, I recognize that I may be new here. I appreciate all of the time that you spend helping me understand this concept. But I'm good now. Thanks for all your help. I feel that I've caught up, and I appreciate your time in doing that, right? And you see it persist. You have to realize that it's not going to be solved overnight, and you need to continue having that conversation. The other thing that you can do is find an ally in your workplace. And whether that ally is being a woman who understands and can look out on your team when a mansplainer is, over-explaining to you, or you can find a male. And I actually did this in my own business when I started a couple of years ago. I recognized that I am a small, 5 foot tall Asian woman. And as an Asian woman, you cannot tell if you're 14 or 25, right? So I wanted to find a partner that could vouch for me in the boardroom when I needed. And if he needed to stop the group and say, Lynn just said that, I'm going to give her the floor and let her speak again, that has done wonders for me, right? So how can you turn the people that are competitors to you or oppressors to you into someone who can be an ally for you, right?
Terrific. Thank Lynn. We're going to talk more about mentors, right? And finding mentors, so important to all of us in our career. Barbara, did you want to jump in, or?
I guess the only thing that I would stress in my long journey is the two things that have been most described today: the mansplaining and still the tremendous burden of childcare on women. This is the two things that I guess we still have to work out, but particularly on the childcare issue. I think it was a gentleman who asked that question. So the number one thing is to really step up and help your partner raise your children. It's the number one thing that really could help women move forward. And also that companies also have to change policies about that. It's very interesting. I've written a number of cases and reports on women entrepreneurs, and one of that is definitely a cultural thing, that when a woman starts a company, there is typically far more support and respect for letting women have flexibility to come and go, to definitely participate in obligations for children. So it can be done, and that should really be coming more into mainstream corporate America too.
Great, thanks, Barbara. Elnaz.
Yeah, definitely. I would like to add to this, based on my experience, is that women need to be very creative when it comes to fundraising. After 2 or 3 times of going to the rooms full of male investors, it was obvious for us as a team that most of the venture firms are giving more credit to male founders rather than when they see a female CEO in healthcare company. So we decided that when it comes to giving the questions and everything, maybe it is good to have a male partner next to me. So sometimes, I was asking my husband, who is also my partner in the company, to stand next to me while I'm pitching in, room full of male investors. And the sad reality for me was that after giving 20 minutes of presentation, so investors were starting to ask questions from him rather than me, standing there giving all the information as the CEO of the company. But it was the feeling that they were more confident that my male partner is answering them, to make them, to make sure that okay, someone is responsible here. And at the same time, when it came to the terms and conditions, I was getting very weird questions, which I think is the common question that all the female entrepreneurs are getting. One of them was that, what if we give you the investment and your marriage doesn't work? And it was kind of very offensive, but at the same time very weird question, that why I'm getting these type of questions when it comes to my company. This is my personal life, this is professional life, so why we are mixing them? Or another question was that, what if you decide to have a baby? Are you gonna quit? So these are all the gender biased questions that I don't think that men are getting it when they go to the meetings for any type of meetings, not just fundraising, but when they are in the corporate meetings. But we as women are being judged by the gender and how our personal life is going to be in the next few years.
That's a great point. But I know Lynn wanted to jump in and add something, I think.
Yeah, so the point about the leadership is so important. And I wanted to just quickly read you the stat from Built In. It is more likely to have a CEO named John or David than there is to have a CEO that is a woman. And if your name is John or David out there, or any man out there, you need to realize that it's your responsibility to open doors for other women. It's just numbers, right? So really think about how you can do that starting today in the classroom. If you notice that this is happening, do it today.
Terrific. You all brought up so many great points, and it's interesting. It's interesting because I'm going to tie in a couple of things that you all said. So Barbara, you noted that you're finding women-owned businesses are actually doing quite well and able to pivot. Interestingly, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce just reported in a study that they did that female business owners who previously ranked their business health at somewhat or very good fell 13% during the pandemic. Less than half of them believe their revenues will increase next year. I don't think any of you will be surprised when I tell you that the majority of the male respondents actually believe their revenues will increase, right? So, and this kind of goes to, Lynn, what you were talking about in terms of the imposter syndrome, right? So in another recent study conducted by researchers at UPenn and Harvard, they asked subjects to do a basic aptitude test, and there was no difference in the outcomes of the aptitude test. Well, actually, females did a little bit better. But what they did is then ask them to, before they gave them their grades on the test, they said, well, how do you think you did? I don't think many of you will be surprised to find out that more women, right, actually responded saying they didn't think they did as well, right? They didn't think they did well. And in fact, they beat their score. Conversely, men said, yeah, I did great, and did not do as well as they expected. And so my question to you is, there's often, a gender difference in terms of confidence, and also with self-promotion. Many of us feel uncomfortable, right, promoting our achievements, right? We were told, I mean, certainly I was told by my mother, you don't brag. That's not a feminine thing to do. How do you think, to what extent do you think in that response, we see the issues with, right, imposter syndrome and confidence that sometimes women have a tough time, right, really being their own champions? Or do you really think that women-owned businesses are not going to do as well, which is how the U.S. Chamber of Commerce actually couched this survey? I didn't know who wanted to jump in first.
I have a lot to say, obviously,
Go
about this
ahead.
topic. Yeah, so I'll start with what you just said about that study. I'm assuming that most of the students in here are going to be looking for a job soon. And I would like you to know that most women, when they look at a job description, if they don't fill at least 90% of the responsibilities and requirements, they don't apply to the job. Now, men, if they fill at least 50%, they will go and apply to the job, right? So, and that means absolutely nothing, right? So if you're someone who feels doubt in applying to a job, just do it, right? There's a mental block that you need to kind of get over, which is, what if I'm not good enough, right? What do I have to offer? And these are hard questions that you need to ask yourself, but it's kind of like, if you go to the gym, right, you have to exercise as part of your professional career as well. Ask yourself what you really want to do. Ask yourself, why do you feel intimidated by this? Because really imposter syndrome comes from just like doubting yourself, right? So if you can separate the feeling of doubting yourself and, maybe not having this ability yet, you can still learn those things and then, overcome that feeling, right? And one thing that I'll say is that to kind of combat this and to give yourself the most opportunities that you can, you really need to nail your elevator pitch. And I'm not talking about your company elevator pitch. I'm talking about your personal self elevator pitch, right? Come up with a 30-second and then come up with a longer 60-second one so that when someone asks you, tell me about yourself, you're ready to go, right? You can talk about yourself as a professional. And if you don't know how to do that, take a page out of your journal and start taking inventory at the end of each semester. What are you proud of doing? What did you accomplish this semester? And what can you take from this semester forward into your business or into your career?
Janet,
Yeah.
I have a few things that I'd like to add to that. First off, I've been accused of that modesty does not grow in my garden. So I don't know if I have a genetic something or other, but I've written a lot about this. And the notion that I would like to share is that women have to get over the need to be perfect, and that is really an outside judgment. One thinks that if one is driven to being perfect, that it's about others. But if you think about it, it actually is an obsession with yourself. So one thing that I like to, when I work with students and business owners, again, is to get back to what is your purpose or mission on the planet. If you are obsessed by doing something for others in a really, really deep way, that kind of attitude goes away. And also, if you are the first person to do something, if you are an entrepreneur, if you are an innovator, it is totally folly to be obsessed with the need to be perfect, because you will never get started. And then on the positive side of this, and a lot of my work with entrepreneurs, women have shared with me that they really care about how they're doing. They really care about what their customer wants. And so if a woman asks a customer or a stakeholder, how am I doing? What could I do better? We really listen and react to that. But I would also like to share with the men who are listening to this, we can document that when you ask your customer or someone, how are you doing? And we start to give you a suggestion on how you might do it better, you instantly go into defense mode and sort of keep on top, justify the way you've been doing things. So there's the other side of this need to always get better and better, which also I think makes us better listeners. And certainly coming out of the pandemic, hugging your customer, listening to your customer, understanding their new needs is really going to be the secret of being successful as we go into next year.
Thanks, Barbara. Angela, did you want to add anything?
I have so many thoughts. I'm thinking with both minds. I'm thinking with the mind of working in a company environment and also being an entrepreneur. I'm going to touch on two things. I remember when I was moving into a new position, I was shifting from one firm to the next firm, and I had two really great candidates. Both one was a male, both, the other one was a female. No sooner had I announced to my team that I had resigned from the position and I was moving on to other things, the male team member actually went into one of the other managers and said, I want to be considered for the position. And he did it very quietly. No one knew, but they brought me into a room later. His counterpart, which was female, was totally shocked. She couldn't believe that he had done it, that she had not moved fast enough, and she had not spoken up. And what I find in my entire career, and it's been pretty consistent so far, is that there are some women, I think what we're talking about is we overthink what we need to do instead of just putting our name in the bag and letting it go. I really echo and I really support what Lynn was talking about in terms of being able to take inventory of what you're good at. And also understanding that you are your own personal brand, whether you have a company or not, you are representing yourself every day that you step out the door. So taking inventory of your accomplishments, even the small ones, are going to work to your advantage, but don't hesitate. I feel that my male counterparts, they jump for the position very quickly. And for us, we feel like we need that need to be perfect in every sense. And sometimes done is better than perfect. And I want everyone to remember that. Just putting your one foot in front of the other and then working it out as you go along will serve you best than not doing it at all and getting stuck. So that's something I really want to just make sure that everyone understands, that you have to step out on faith and be confident with what you know, and know that just how you learned to walk, you will learn how to run, as you're building those experiences. So just be confident in who you are. Women in entrepreneurship, it takes a level of courage for us to step out on faith and on our dreams. And I really love what Barbara has been talking about with her mission, because I knew that when I was leaving my corporate position and the security of what I had at the time, that I was walking out on faith, but I had to walk out with a strategy. And so I started building my strategy before I even left. So when I moved into this position of being an entrepreneur, I had a system of a thought process of what I needed to take. And if I really truly was dedicated to my dream and my aspiration, that I had to show up like I showed up at work, I needed to show up for my business every day.
Terrific, Angela. Thank you. Inez, I know you had comments.
Yeah, absolutely. For this specific topic, I think while we need to empower women, also we need to empower men as well to accept women the way they are. So we are seeing that the notion of being professional is very broad when it comes to women. And this makes us hesitant to jump into new opportunities, to present ourselves the way we are. So just to give you an example, for example, when we are seeing a woman who is very, extrovert, who is communicating with everyone, then we see that that specific person is becoming labored of, not being that much professional in the, workplace. But again, the same as when the woman is very serious and kind of introvert, they get labored as emotionless. So all these kind of judgments that we are getting from male-dominated society, I think is making women less, it's making them hesitant to present themselves when a new opportunity is coming in, because they think that, okay, I'm not gonna be perfect for this situation, or maybe they're gonna labor me for this higher level job. So I think, at this specific topic, it's not just the women that need to change their mindset, but at the same time, we need to change the mindset of the male as well.
Great point. And it brings me to something Angela said earlier about work-life balance, right? And we actually had Adita Friedman join us last week, who's the CEO of NASDAQ, and she talked about how when her children were young, her husband went part-time, and they kind of each of them spent time out of the workforce, right? assuming equal responsibilities of the responsibilities at home, right? Which doesn't always happen, which is what Barbara was talking about. And so I'd be curious, and I think it would be a real help for everyone on the call to hear kind of your strategies. And I'm a big believer that there's no such thing as work-life balance. As someone who raised 2 kids myself, I never got to balance. And the ideal of balance stressed me out because I never felt in balance, and I felt like there was something wrong about that, right? That I was failing at getting to work-life balance. And so I really like to look at it as work-life fusion, right? How do you make these 2 domains work together? So I'd be curious to hear kind of what was your strategies and what do you believe were non-negotiable items when it comes to ensuring that you have a meaningful relationship between these 2 aspects of your life? Are there some things that are just hard and fast for you in terms of creating that fusion? And Angela, since you were the first one to bring up work-life balance, I'm going to throw it over to you.
Well, first of all, it's funny that that was part of some of the notes that I was going to share with everyone. I learned very early on in my career that I had to be more forgiving of myself. I've spoken to many of my mentors and advisors, and they told me that on every level, there's no way possible that you're going to be able to give 100% to everything in life. You may be able to give 90% to your family one day and 10% to your business the other day, or maybe in the same day. And it was very important for me, being that me feeling that I'm a type A individual. And like I said, I had to show up at every moment, every time, that I found that that was just impossible to do. I feel that I'm a very extraordinary person. I will do the things that most people won't. And what I mean by that is, even when I had children, I was working on my business, I would make sure that they were fed, they were taken care of, and they got my time. And then I would spend the rest of my time, whether that be from 8 o'clock at night to 2 o'clock in the morning, working on my business. So I feel that in that sense, I knew that I had to make certain sacrifices, but not for the long term. It was to benefit me for the short term, you know? So I wanted to go back to what you were saying before, and I'm very passionate about my family. So my non-negotiable was my child. When I was working in investment banking, very shortly after having a child, I realized that he was a special needs child, and I needed to be there for him. And a lot of his development was contingent on my ability to show up. My husband was there, but I'm his partner. And so I needed to show up for my child, and that was a non-negotiable for me. So in making a lot of the changes that I made is, and I don't recommend this for everyone, it's just a change that I had to make. I stepped down from one of my positions, and the firm loved me so much, they created a position for me because they understood what I was going through. And they made me a global project manager for all of quality assurance for HSBC. And so I covered all of the regions in the United States, Mexico, Poland, and everywhere. But that was because they understood how important family was to me and how much I was willing to dedicate to the job. I just had to make a decision. So if you ask for a non-negotiable, it would be my family every time. Now, that doesn't come without a strategy, right? I learned through another mentor, because I have a lot of great women mentors. And my mentor to this day is my former boss at HSBC. She walks with me every day and always checks in and makes sure that we have those conversations, is that you have to work out a strategy that's going to work for you. So just like you go into a job and you know, okay, in the morning, I'm going to read my emails, and this time I'm going to work out, and this time I'm going to show up at work, that type of thing. When you become an entrepreneur, that schedule should not change. It changes in the sense that you feel that you have more time because you're not dedicated to a clock, but it doesn't change because you still have the same hours and minutes in a day. So you want to be able to manage yourself, and then also find the opportunity, as I said before, to be more forgiving. Because when you're a mother, or even when you're not a mother, right? You don't have any children. When you're an entrepreneur, it's just you in the beginning and until you start to build a team. Even if you have a partner, you guys are working together out of your own specialized gifts and what you bring to the table, right? So hopefully there's a balance there. So in the beginning, you want to be forgiving on what you can do, give it your all, and understand that not every day is going to be perfect. I hope that answers the question, Janet.
Perfect, Angela. It was terrific. Thank you for that. Elnaz, I don't know if you wanted to jump in.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with Angela. I think balance is achieved over time, not each day. So, most of the times when people are talking about work-life balance, they probably imagine having an extremely productive day at work and then leaving early to spend time, with their families and friends. This seems very ideal, but it's not, basically possible and realistic. So for me, it means having a realistic schedule rather than a perfect one. So some days I might focus on my work, while other days I might have more time and energy to, go after my hobbies or spend time with my family, specifically with my child. And I think the key here in finding balance is to remain fluid and allowing yourself to remain open to redirecting and assessing your needs on any days. So at times your children may need you more, and at other times you need to, travel for the work and leave them alone with the father. For me, basically when I list my, priorities, my baby comes, first always. And it doesn't mean that I'm gonna, be sacrificing the business in a, unrealistic way. But I think it's very important that, even now that we are trying to empower women and going to, all these topics that the women are, at the center of the business as well. But realistically, even at this time, mothers are the first, caregiver of the baby. We haven't reached to the point that the fathers are sacrificing as much as the, mothers are doing. So I always want my son to know that he can call me even if I'm in the meeting, but at the same time to educate him that it should be very important to call me. This is something, emergency. This is something that I don't negotiate. If he calls me, he's now a newborn, but when he grows up and he calls me, it means that it is something important, and everyone in the meeting should know that, okay, I'm leaving, I'm taking this call. And he's the only one that can do it. My husband can wait after the meeting.
Lynn, did you want to jump in?
Sure. I agree with you. I don't believe in work-life balance. I feel like it was probably a perfectionist that probably created that concept. I think that it's a choice that you have to make day to day, because as the mother said on this call, like being a mother at the same time as a founder, or being a best friend, or being a partner, right? All of these things are really, really hard to do, even on top of being a student. And you have to choose day to day what's the most important thing to you that day to go forth and do, right? For example, this panel, right? This was probably one of the most important things that I had to do today, and I wanted to create time for it. But actually one of the classes that I attended, which was the intersection of like computer science and business, on the first day, Dr. Curry asked us to do for homework. He said, go and calculate how much time you spend working and calculate how much time you have left in your life. And I'm not going to tell you the number right now because I'm not going to make you sad, but go do the math yourself. Because what that means is that you need to do what Angela said. Your life needs to be so intentional. What is your non-negotiable? And at 2.0, we call it your check boxes. Have this conversation with yourself. What are your life check boxes? And it sounds really scary, but like, is it to get married? Is it to have a family? Is it to start an all girls biker gang, which is what I want to do? Those are the things that you will shape your career around, your company around, right? Because those are the things, those are the motivators that will motivate you to work and live this life, right? But yeah, you should love what you do, and you have to choose every single day to sacrifice something. And I think one last point, I'm a daughter of 2 immigrants, and they're both entrepreneurs. And I think that through this childhood that I've had, I've been taught to just show up, right? And it's also what you've been taught as a woman. When push comes to shove, you're going to show up. But like at the end of the day, it's going to be impossible to give more than you have, and you need to recognize that. So if you feel yourself not being able to do that, then just tell yourself, if I don't do this today, it's not the end of the world. What's going to happen tomorrow, right? And determine your own prioritization process.
Terrific. Thanks, Lynn. Barbara.
I think balance comes from being extremely selfish, that one cannot be balanced without being obsessed with taking some time to be alone and intentional to build on some of the themes. But a couple of other points, practical points that I'd like to make is that I've written a lot about joyful, child-free womanhood. So first thing, I absolutely want to suggest that maybe some of us aren't meant or to have children. I actually made a very conscious choice that there was 1 billion children on the planet who are going to bed tonight without food or having lived $1 a day. And I personally felt that I wanted to give my energy to more than that focus of one child. By life's design, though, however, my sister actually passed and I ended up raising my 2 nephews. And I also, along the way, married someone and had 7 stepchildren. So my conscious decision not to do this also gave me the space for people who needed me at that. So first thing, I do want to throw that out to women. I have absolutely no regrets that I've never had a child directly from my body, and don't be afraid if that's your choice. The second thing, I think it's very important to be very careful about the partner you choose. Really have a contract, whether they're going to help you raise your children and have balance and whatever. Extremely important to choose your partner well, or in my opinion, you're better off going alone. And then the final thing is, I think that that we can only be focused at any time on 3 things. And my ritual is that every New Year's Eve, I actually write my dream obituary, which gives me a vision of where I want to be at the end of my life. And then I choose the 3 things that are going to be most important to me for the year. I also have a ritual of the first of the month to say, what are the 3 things for the month? On Sundays, I have the ritual of what are the 3 most important things for this week. And every morning before I go off with my day, I say to myself, what are the 3 things that I can do today which will help me get my mission done and help me move my life forward?
Thank you, Barbara. That's great. I wanted to stop for a minute and see if any of the students have a question. I see one in the chat that I'll ask, but I also want to make sure that anyone in the Zoom, if you have a question, just raise your hand so we can get to you as well. But let me start with this one. Question for the panel. How do you think the results of the next election may impact you in your respective businesses? So I don't know who wants to tackle that one first. I see a lot of smiles. I'm not sure. I don't want to call anybody out.
I got it.
All right.
Yeah, there is one way that I hope it will go, and I will not say which way, but I do think that for us, our mission is to democratize opportunity, right? And that comes from recognition of identity and socioeconomic status, and also recognition of privilege, right? So I feel that there are, either way, there are going to be a lot of people who are unhappy, right? And they're going to look at their lives and say, what does this mean for my career and my business, right? So I think that this election will cause a lot of people to ask themselves the same questions that they asked themselves during the pandemic, because that's a global issue, right? Is this what I really want? What does this election hold me back from in achieving, right? And do I have equal opportunities as other people? And I think that the conversations that we'll be having with our own members will be much more centered about, how do I optimize my chances at this point when I know that my country is holding me back in some way, right? And how do you play to the systems that have been set up for you or may be oppressing you as a woman or as a person of color? And how do you use that to your advantage, for example, tokenism, right, to earn the opportunities or prove yourself in that way?
Thanks, Lynn. anyone want, Elnaz, you want to jump in?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually coming from a background that in my country, women don't have that much of a rights and, opportunities to work. So even if, the situation is not in your favor, you work harder. That's the thing, that you push harder. There is no other choice. So even, either way that the, election results is, going to affect you, it doesn't matter because you re-strategize and you just think that, okay, this is the situation. I have two choices. I either quit or I work harder. I find a way to make it happen for me. That's the only thing that I can say. That's how I have lived. And when I come here again, there are many struggles. I think that an immigrant person is an entrepreneur in heart, because we are dealing with a lot of different things, ups and downs every day. So again, every day that we wake up, we have two choices: to quit, to sit back, or to say that, okay, I'm going to be stronger, I'm going to have a thicker skin to go through this situation.
Terrific. Thanks, Elnaz. Angela,
I think between Lyndon and us, they basically hit on exactly what I was going to say. Even before, thinking of this election, actually going through COVID, going through the pandemic, I was already thinking, okay, what does 2021 look like, right? Because I had already started working in the sense of, okay, this is what second quarter looks like. This is what third quarter looks like. This is what fourth quarter looks like. And what I do, it doesn't matter what's happening around me. I always am strategizing for how do I position myself? And then of course, thinking of the what if scenarios along the way, obviously, but how do I take advantage of whatever the results will be? But at the same time, think of it as not being a showstopper either. You're either committed to continuing on and moving forward, or you're not. So, just taking from the example, how I spoke of, my business. I'm a medical tattoo artist. We were one of the last industries to open up. They did open us up in New York State, but even when they did, we were opened up with restrictions and we still couldn't do a lot of the main services that we provide over to our customers. So what did that mean for my business? What did that mean for the future of my business? Now, obviously, for a lot of us beauty professionals, it set us back and we had to think of different ways to pivot. Well, during that time, I was getting calls from colleagues asking me for help with their business. And so it tapped into another part of my brain in regards to how I could pivot, not only just maintaining my business, but also taking advantage of other skill sets that work to my advantage as well to continue on this path of entrepreneurship. So I never really look at elections or anything as stopping me from moving forward. I just keep moving forward.
I love that, Angela. It's great. Barbara, did you want to add?
Oh, I am a very political person, so I know it's not appropriate, but I am extremely concerned about the newest appointment to the Supreme Court, and I'm extremely concerned that if our country does not shift more to a Democratic majority and a Democratic president, that in actual fact, women are going to move backwards, that there's going to be some things that are not great for us. And so I'm very concerned about it. I also definitely believe that we need another stimulus package to help entrepreneurs and really to put things in the right way. There are also, I think, incredible opportunities for entrepreneurs with really accepting that climate change is a reality, and really having a leadership that's going to push money into the direction of creating the industries of the future. So I'm very concerned about what happens in the election, and really feel that it is going to make a very big impact on women's lives, depending on which way this turns out.
Thanks, Barbara. So a few more questions in the chat, and I know we're getting close to the end of time, so I want to try to get to as many as we possibly can. So this question is from Bella Gomez. Who are the women in entrepreneurship that you admire most in the business world, and why? I don't know if there's anyone that has someone that comes to mind right away. Elnaz?
Yeah, for me, as I said, I was in the first year of my doctorate degree that I got connected with Hofstra Entrepreneurship Center. And one of my, my mentor was Barbara. So I would say Barbara as the, someone who really influenced me. I always really enjoy, listening to her. It's basically a wisdom that she's giving us. At that time, she, taught me to be strong and not to give up. And so I would say Barbara as the person who has really impacted and influenced me in my career. And thank you, Barbara.
That's
So
truly amazing.
obviously, I have tears coming to my eyes with that. So thank you very, very much. The first person that
Supporting women. It's the great thing, right?
The first person that jumped into my mind is Oprah. I think Oprah is incredible of where she came from, how she used what she is, and her generosity, the spirit, the values that she stands for. That is the woman entrepreneur that first popped into my mind, and Elnes too.
Terrific. Lynn, do you have a entrepreneur that you admire most?
Yeah, I have two. So one is Sophia Amoruso, who wrote the book Girl Boss and was the founder of Nasty Gal, and then Girl Boss, and then now I think it's Business Class. She has time and time again faced adversity, not only as a woman, but facing bankruptcy and trying to figure out her place in the world. And after having to leave Girl Boss, which was her most recent company, she came back stronger than ever with another one. So if that shows you anything, that like, if you know that you're an entrepreneur, it doesn't have to start and end with your first business. You learn so much from each one that you have. And then the second one is Liz Plank, and she is a producer on Vox, but she's also a author as well. And she wrote the book For the Love of Men. And she initially wrote that book to teach men how to date women better in New York. And it turned into this nonfiction dissection of toxic masculinity and turning it into mindful masculinity. So if the women in here have like a boyfriend or a good friend in their life, definitely get them that book. I think Christmas is coming up. So yeah, do that.
Terrific. Thanks, Lynn and Angela.
So I have two as well, but I'll start with the most important one. It's my mom. So she's my best friend. She's also a serial entrepreneur. She's raised all six of us, and she just always astonishes me. She's also the owner of Officiant on Call, which is a wedding officiant agency. And during the pandemic, her agency has just really blown up due to the fact that most couples are looking for more intimate ways to get married. And every day that I watch her go about her business while still working at the same time, it definitely motivates and inspires me every day, just as if I was a little girl, right? The second person, her name is Courtney Adelaide, and she is the founder of The Main Choice, which is a huge makeup brand, and it's in Target. She's also pivoted now to create a Generation Advantage Fund for entrepreneurs, giving them the opportunity to be able to launch their dreams. And I look to her because she started off as a nurse practitioner, and she started her business with $500 in her pocket, and launched it into a multi-million dollar brand. So just following her story and understanding her need to be able to help other women entrepreneurs inspires me as well.
That's terrific. So this is most likely will be our last question, and I think it's a perfect one. So Emily has asked, what is the best advice you would give to someone who wants to begin their journey to become an entrepreneur themselves? So lasting pearls of wisdom for our young budding entrepreneurs. Lynn, we want to start with you?
Sure. I think that there's no better time than to start right now. And as Barbara said, figure out what your problem is and become obsessed with solving it. Because if you don't, then you're going to become burned out really quickly. Having this, like the Zarb School, and also having the Center for Entrepreneurship and the Idea Hub at your fingertips, like I cannot tell you how helpful that was when I was a student, and like coming out and becoming an adult right now, that it's so different, right? Like you don't have your own schedule. You don't have set times for you to go work and study and have this library for you to go into, right? Especially during this pandemic. So really take advantage of the opportunities that you have within the Center for Entrepreneurship, because like that's all the resources there for you to go into your business model canvas to learn how to create traction, right? You need to think about who you want to be as a founder, what problem you're solving, and how does this change you as a professional, and how does this change you as an identity? Because if you're not prepared to take on the responsibility of solving this problem, then it's going to be really hard for you to thrive from there. So if you're already ready to do that, Emily, like go freaking do it. You got it.
Great, thanks, Lynn. Elnez, do you want to last words of wisdom?
Sure. So I would say develop thick skin, but stay approachable. You know, I think one of the hardest parts of being a successful woman in any profession is that women live in a world that doesn't appreciate successful women. Successful women are often, you know, I think looked down upon, and their success is not that much appreciated, and it's kind of minimalized. So I think in a world that we are living that holds very few seats for women at the table of importance, it's important to take a seat or pull up a chair anyhow. Thick skin is one of the hardest and yet most valuable thing a woman in any profession can learn and have, but staying approachable is also very important.
Terrific, thank you. Angela.
So if you have a burning desire to kick off that thought, that dream, and it does not go away, meaning every day that you wake up in the morning, it's right there, and every day you go to sleep, it's still there. That is your intuition telling you that you're meant to do something more. And I feel that if you have the desire to be an entrepreneur, to start a business, the worst regret that you will ever have in life is if you never pursued that dream or that passion. And so you will always have what you have at this present moment and be able to build upon it as you develop experience. So don't let anything keep you from moving forward. I think with COVID, especially this pandemic in general, it's really shown people that you have to have more than just your 9 to 5. And I think that's why a lot of businesses are growing and people are thinking of innovative ideas. Because they're starting to think about that stone unturned, right? So if you have that thought, as I mentioned before, that dream and that passion that you want to pursue, have confidence that you will be able to see the success of it. I like to live a life of no regrets. I like to think that I'm going to live to be 100 years old, even though I don't know what capacity I'll be in. But I can honestly say that everything that I've ever thought about, life has presented the opportunity for me to pursue it. So be confident in who you are and what you have to give to the world, and be steadfast that what you are to give to other people, that someone is going to need it too.
Thanks, Angela. And Barbara, last but certainly not least.
Thank you, Janet. Okay, so I guess we're just really shouting the same theme. Again, in this chaos of our current times, there's extraordinary opportunity. Don't let the negative kind of stuff in the world get you down. Look around, and the number one thing to be asking yourself is, why are you on the planet? That is the whole purpose of living a life, is to figure that out. I would share, one thing I would wanted to share is a one-page document that you can download, which is called the Cult of Done Manifesto. It was written by Bree Pettis, who is the founder of 3D printing. It's a fantastic, inspirational 12 short sentences of getting you motivated to get things done. And then my final big point, which I think is what is the core belief of any entrepreneur, is that any problem that humans created, humans can solve. And in the spirit of today, I'd like to change that and particularly highlight that any problem a man solved, a woman can fix. And that, let's close with that.
Terrific. Well, I just have to thank each one of our panelists. It was just, again, an amazing conversation. I just love to be a part of this day because it's just bringing together such incredible women who are willing to share your time and your expertise and your wise advice to our students who are looking to follow your path is just so wonderful. And it's what makes the Zarb experience truly unique, that our students have the opportunity to interact with each of you. And so thank you for that. I know Sharon wanted to add a few things.
Just wanted to thank you all for your participation and thank the students for your excellent questions and for engaging. And of course, thank Dean Lenaghan for her amazing job moderating 4th year in a row. And it is our annual event, so we will see you all back here next year. And we hope that you'll register for our business plan competition at hofstra.edu/entrepreneurship. There's $75,000 in cash and prizes, men, women, purple, orange, everybody. I hope you all throw your hat in and share your ideas and innovations. Stacy?
I think that sums it up. I think this was one of the best discussions we've ever had at this event, and the stories you shared, your candidness, you were inspiring to everyone. And I want to thank Dean Lenaghan for moderating as well. You always do an amazing job, and I'm so grateful for your collaboration.
Thank you, everyone. Stay healthy and vote.
Thank you so much.
And vote.
Have a great weekend.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Okay, we're out.
Super.